The rain hammered the church roof like God's own fury, drowning out the organ's final, mournful note. I stood there in my too-tight black suit, staring at Mom's casket as if sheer will could pry it open one last time. "Ethan, she's gone," the minister said, his voice cutting through like a knife, but I didn't hear him. I was already screaming inside, because the man who'd walked in late, slipping into the back pew with a stranger's hand in his, was my father, Jason, and he'd brought his whole new life to her funeral. That stranger, Adam, he'd introduce himself later with a handshake that felt like pity, was the husband my mother had never mentioned in her last frantic calls from the hospital bed. She died alone in that sterile room, clutching a photo of me at 12, while Jason had been building this other family 2 states away. As the mourners filed out, umbrellas blooming like black flowers against the Pacific Northwest downpour, I grabbed my duffel bag from the pew and bolted. The hook of betrayal lodged so deep in my chest it stole my breath. Seattle's gray skies had never felt so heavy, and in that moment, I knew my old life was buried with her. Now I had to unearth whatever hell waited with the man who'd abandoned us both. The drive to Portland was a blur of windshield wipers slapping rhythmically against the relentless rain, the kind that turns the I-5 into a river of taillights. Jason gripped the wheel of his old Subaru, knuckles white, while Adam sat shotgun, twisting to glance back at me every few miles like I was a bomb about to detonate. I slouched in the back seat, earbuds blasting the Nationals' brooding anthems, pretending the world outside didn't exist. We'd barely spoken since the graveside, me hurling accusations like, "Where the hell were you?" and him mumbling about work keeping him away. As if spreadsheets could excuse missing her chemo appointments, Portland hit me like a slap of hipster optimism amid the gloom. Craft breweries glowing neon in the Pearl District, food carts steaming with plant-based tacos, and people in flannel who looked like they'd stepped out of a Patagonia catalog. Jason's house was in Selwood, a cozy bungalow squeezed between sycamores that arched like protective arms over the street. "Home sweet home," he said, forcing a smile as he unlocked the door, but it cracked like thin ice. Inside smelled of cedar and fresh basil from the herb garden Adam tended out back. Nothing like the stale cigarette haze of our old apartment in Seattle. Adam was the first surprise. Tall and lean, with salt and pepper hair cropped close and eyes the color of driftwood. He moved with this quiet efficiency, like he'd mapped out every emotional landmine before I arrived. "Ethan, right? Jason's told me so much about you," he said, extending a hand that I ignored, dropping my bag on the living room rug instead. The space was all warm woods and exposed brick, bookshelves groaning under dog-eared copies of Whitman and Baldwin. A far cry from Mom's cluttered chaos of romance novels and takeout boxes. Jason hovered awkwardly, rubbing his neck. "Your room's upstairs. We can talk whenever you're ready." Ready? I wasn't ready for the king-sized bed with the navy duvet that screamed adult stability, or the desk overlooking the Willamette River snaking through the city like a silver vein. I slammed the door and collapsed, the weight of the day crashing down. Mom's voice echoed in my head, her last words on the phone, raspy from the tubes. "Don't hate him, baby. He just lost his way. Lost his way to another man's bed, apparently." I'd known Dad was gay since I was 14, pieced it together from the locked drawer of letters and the way he'd stare too long at the joggers in Golden Gate Park during our rare visits. But Mom had shielded me, spinning tales of irreconcilable differences, until the cancer stripped her lies bare. Now here I was, 18 and orphaned in every way that mattered, crashing with the family secret. Dinner that night was a disaster wrapped in forced normalcy. Adam grilled salmon, wild-caught from the Columbia, he explained with that soft Oregon drawl, and Jason poured Pinot Noir like it could lubricate the silence. I poked at my plate, the fish flaking under my fork like my resolve. "So, school?" Adam ventured, his voice steady as a lighthouse beam. "Jason says you're into photography." I snorted. "Was. Before Mom got sick and I dropped out to play nurse." Jason winced, setting his glass down. "Ethan, I wanted to be there. The firm's restructuring. Save it." I cut in, the words tasting like bile. "You chose your life. Now I'm stuck in yours." Adam's fork paused midair, and for a split second, something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Understanding? He cleared his throat. "Grief's a beast, kid. Claws at the soft spots. But this house? It's got room for more than one story. I shoved back from the table, chair scraping like nails on chalkboard, and stormed out to the back porch. The rain had eased to a mist, cloaking the garden in ethereal fog. Fireflies. Wait. No. Just porch light glinting off wet leaves. I lit a cigarette, the one vice Mom couldn't cure me of, and exhaled into the night, wondering if Portland's famous bridges were sturdy enough for second chances. The first week blurred into a haze of unpacking and avoidance. Jason worked long hours at his architecture firm downtown, sketching sustainable lofts that dotted the skyline like hopeful sentinels. Adam ran a community center in the Alberta Arts District, coordinating youth programs for LGBTQ+ kids. Ironic, I thought, that the man married to my absentee dad was out there saving the world while I unraveled. He'd leave notes on the fridge. Coffee's hot. Walk the dog if you're up for it. Rusty misses adventure. Rusty was their golden retriever, a slobbery mop who adopted me faster than they did, dragging me on leashed loops through Oak's Bottom Wildlife Refuge, where herons stalked the reeds like ghosts. One morning, as mist clung to the cottonwoods, Rusty tugged me toward the riverbank, and that's when I met Kai. He was sketching under the Selwood Bridge, charcoal smudging his fingers, a beanie pulled low over tousled black hair that fell like raven wings. Late 20s, maybe, with skin like polished oak and a jawline that could cut glass. Pacific Islander, I guess, from the tribal ink peeking from his sleeve. Your dog's got better taste in company than most, he said without looking up, a grin tugging his lips. I froze, leash taut in my hand. Rusty picks the strays. I'm just along for the walk. We talked, or rather, he talked, his voice a low rumble like distant thunder over the Cascades. Kai was a tattoo artist at a shop in Hawthorne, inking stories into skin for anyone brave enough to bear their scars. Art's therapy, he said, flipping his sketchbook to show a half-finished portrait of the bridge at dawn, light fracturing the water like shattered promises. Captures the mess before it fades. I envied that ease, the way he wore his queerness like a badge, ear gauges glinting, a subtle pride pin on his backpack. Me? I'd buried my questions deep, Mom's evangelical roots whispering, sin, every time a boy in high school lingered too long in the darkroom. By week's end, Jason cornered me in the kitchen, flour dusted from attempting Adam's sourdough recipe. We need to talk, about your mom, about us. His eyes, the same stormy blue as mine, pleaded. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Us? There was never an us, Dad. You bailed when I was 6 chasing blueprints and, whatever this is. I gestured vaguely at the wedding photo on the mantel. Jason and Adam on a Maui beach, windswept and laughing, lays around their necks like garlands of forgiveness. He sighed, sinking onto a stool. I was scared, son. Terrified of what it meant to love a man in a world that still whispers freak. Your mom and I, we tried for you, but when Adam came along, his voice trailed, thick with the unsaid. I thought distance would protect you from the fallout. Biggest mistake of my life. Tears welled, unashamed, and for the first time, I saw him not as the villain who'd vanished, but a man who'd fractured under his own secrets. I wanted to rage, to hurl the loaf pan across the room, but instead, I slid onto the stool beside him. She died hating you, you know, said you broke her heart twice. Once when you left, again when you didn't come back. Jason nodded, slow as a confessional. I deserved that, but I'm here now, and Adam, he's the best thing that's happened to me. Maybe, if you let him, he could be family to you too. Family. The word hung like smoke, acrid and unfamiliar. That night, as rain pattered the skylight, I lay awake listening to their murmurs downstairs. Jason's baritone weaving with Adam's tenor in a duet of quiet intimacy. It stirred something in me, a longing I'd never named, sharp as the ache in my chest. Fall deepened, leaves carpeting the streets in crimson and gold, Portland's craft beer scene buzzing like a heartbeat. Kai became a fixture in my routine, our walks evolving into coffee runs at Coava, where he'd tease me about my black Americano. Bitter as your backstory, huh? And I'd fire back with photos from my phone, capturing the city's pulse. Street murals exploding in color, cyclists weaving through traffic like schools of silver fish. One afternoon, under the canopy of a Powell City of Books awning, he brushed my hand reaching for the same dog-eared copy of Giovanni's Room. Electricity sparked, undeniable. His gaze holding mine with a question I wasn't ready to answer. "You're holding back," he said later, as we sprawled on a blanket in Washington Park, Rusty snoring between us. The rose gardens perfuming the air with defiant bloom. "Like you've got a ghost riding shotgun." I told him then about Mom, the funeral, the house of strangers. He listened, chin propped on his knee, no judgment in those dark eyes. "Grief's not linear, it's a spiral, but you're not alone in it." His fingers laced with mine, tentative, and I didn't pull away. That touch warm, grounding. Cracked the dam I'd built, tears hot on my cheeks as the sun dipped behind Mount Hood, painting the sky in hues of fire and farewell. But peace was fleeting. The conflict brewed like a storm front rolling in from the coast. Jason started pushing, subtly at first, inviting me to his firm's holiday mixer, where architects in slim-fit suits clinked glasses over microbrews. Adam tagged along, his arm looped casual around Jason's waist, a public ease that twisted my gut. "See? Normal," Jason whispered as we navigated the crowd in a converted warehouse loft overlooking the Burnside Bridge. But normal for them was a minefield for me. Whispers from colleagues, a drunk uncle-type slurring lifestyle choice, and me, the prodigal son, fielding questions like, "How's college?" with a frozen smile. Peaked at Thanksgiving. Adam's family, progressive Portlanders with a sprawling farm in the Hood River Valley, hosted, the table groaning under turkey and cranberry relish, fairy lights twinkling like stars in the orchard beyond. I sat wedged between Kai, invited last minute via text, his presence a lifeline, and Jason's sister, Aunt Lila, who grilled me about adjusting to the new dynamic. Wine flowed, loosening tongues, and that's when Uncle Ray, red-faced from the Pinot, leaned in, voice oily. "So, Jason, you ever regret trading the wife and kid for this?" The table froze, forks hovering. Jason's face drained of color, Adam's hand tightening under the tablecloth. I exploded before Dad could. "This? You mean love?" "Yeah, because Mom's straight marriage was a goddamn fairy tale. Lying to her son, dying alone while he hid in shame." Chairs scraped, Lila shushing, but Ray doubled down. "Boy, family's about blood, not experiments." Kai's grip on my thigh steadied me, but the damage was done. Jason stood, voice steel. "Get out, Ray. Blood doesn't excuse bigotry." The holiday shattered like crystal, guests murmuring exodus as rain lashed the windows. Outside, under the apple trees heavy with fruit, Jason found me chain-smoking, Kai a silent sentinel. "You defended me," he said, voice raw. "After everything." I stubbed the butt into the mud. "Not for you. For her. For what she deserved." But it was a lie. In that moment, seeing the pain etch lines deeper into his face, I glimpsed the boy he'd been, terrified and tender. Adam joined us, coat draped over Jason's shoulders, his presence a balm. "We're all experiments, Some just take longer to bloom." Winter gripped Portland like a vice, snow dusting the evergreens, the Willamette freezing in crystalline veins. Kai and I deepened, stolen kisses in his tattoo parlor after hours, the buzz of the needle a counterpoint to our whispers. He inked a small compass on my wrist, for finding north when the map fails. His lips brushing the fresh lines. It was romance unspooled slow, like a reel of Super 8 film. Walks in Forest Park, hands clasped against the chill, sharing earbuds with Bon Iver's falsetto haunting the trails. He taught me to see the beauty in fractures, the way light splintered through icicles, mirroring the cracks in my heart. Yet betrayal lurked, insidious as black ice. It came via a letter, slipped under the door one sleety morning. Mom's handwriting, shaky from her final weeks, addressed to Jason. I'd found it in her effects, hidden in a shoebox with faded Polaroids. "You think you're building something pure with him?" she wrote, venom bleeding through the page. "But you're poisoning our boy. Tell him the truth, or I'll do it from the grave." The truth? Scrawled below, Jason hadn't just left. He drained their joint account for Adam's art school tuition, leaving Mom penniless, forcing her into night shifts at the diner until the cancer hit. Rage boiled, volcanic. I confronted him that night, letter thrust like a dagger. "You stole from us. For him." Jason crumpled, sinking to the kitchen floor, Adam hovering like a shadow. It was a loan, I paid it back every cent. But the shame, it ate her alive. Lies layered on lies, the foundation of our fractured family quaking. I bolted, keys jangling, driving aimlessly through slush-slick streets until I ended at Kai's studio, the neon open sign a beacon in the dark. He held me as I shattered, sobs racking my frame. They lied to protect me? Or themselves? Kai's voice was anchor steady. Doesn't make it right. But you're not them, You get to rewrite the ending. We made love then. Not frantic, but slow, reverent, bodies mapping forgiveness in the dim glow of his drafting lamp. No fireworks, just the quiet miracle of being seen. Skin to skin, hearts sinking like metronomes. Spring thawed the betrayal petal by petal. Jason entered therapy. Group sessions at Adam's Center, where queer dads swapped stories of custody battles and closet doors kicked down. He invited me once, and I went, sitting in the circle of folding chairs, voices overlapping like harmonies. Tales of rejection, reclamation. I failed you, Jason admitted, eyes on me across the room. But loving Adam saved me. Maybe understanding that can heal us. Adam spoke too, his words a bridge. I never wanted to replace her, just to build beside you. Kai pushed me to respond, his text pre-meeting, grace isn't weakness. So I did, voice cracking. I hate what you did, but I miss what we could be. It wasn't absolution, but a start, threads weaving a tapestry from tatters. The climax crashed in June, heat wave shimmering the air, Portland's bridges thrumming with rush hour exodus. I'd planned a surprise. A photography exhibit at the Jordan Schnitzer Museum, my prints of the city. Rain-slicked alleys, lovers under lamplight, hung like confessions. Jason and Adam arrived, Kai at my side, pride swelling as curators murmured approval. But midway, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Aunt Lila, voice trembling. Ethan, Ray's gone off the deep end. Posted online about Jason, called him a predator, said you'd been corrupted. The post went viral in queer circles. Hashtags twisting truth into venom. Family betrayal, screenshots of our Thanksgiving blow-up doctored with lies. Trolls swarmed Jason's firm inbox. Clients bailing. Adam's Center fielding hate calls that echoed with slurs. We gathered at home, laptops open, the digital storm raging. This is my fault? I whispered, guilt gnawing. Defending you lit the fuse. Jason pulled me close, first hug in years. No, son. It's the world's, but we face it together. Adam rallied. Calls to allies. A counterpost from the center's youth. Stories of resilience. Photos of pride flags waving defiant. Kai filmed it all, his lens capturing not destruction, but defiance blooming. By dawn, the tide turned. Supporters flooding in, donations pouring. A local news van idling outside. Ray's account suspended. His apology a sniveling DM deleted unread. Summer solstice brought catharsis. We drove to the Oregon coast. Cannon Beach's Haystack Rock sentinel against the tide. Waves crashing like applause. Around a bonfire on the sand. Rusty digging frenzied holes. Jason shared the letters he'd written Mom but never sent. Flames devouring regrets. Adam read poetry, Whitman's Song of Myself, a hymn to multitudes. Kai sketched us, charcoaled figures intertwined, and I snapped photos. Silhouettes against the dying light, faces etched with hard-won peace. As stars wheeled overhead, Jason turned to me. You're the best of us, Her fire, my stubbornness, Adam's heart. I nodded, throat tight. And Kai's compass. Romance had rooted me. Kai's proposal casual over IPA at Deschutes Brewery. Move in? Let's ink our stories permanent. I said yes, the word a vow. But humanity's arc bends slow. Mom's ghost lingered in quiet moments. A reminder that love's not erasure, but expansion. Jason and Adam renewed vows in a backyard ceremony. Roses from the garden, Rusty as ring-bearer, inviting me to officiate. By the grace we've clawed from the dirt, I intoned, voice steady. I pronounce you woven eternal. Tears mingled with laughter. The air thick with sea salt from our coastal echo. Now, fall circles back, leaves gold as grace. Portland's pulse syncs with mine. Kai's needle humming in the parlor. Our apartment above it a nest of canvases and coffee stains. Jason and Adam visit Sundays. Brunches at screen door where biscuits steam and stories flow unfiltered. Betrayal's scar fades. A faint line on the wrist Kai inked over. I've learned. Family isn't blood's monopoly, but choice's fierce claim. In America's vast, bruised heart, from Seattle's rains to Portland's blooms, we rebuild. One fragile bridge at a time. The end? Not tragedy, but testament. To loving through the lies, emerging not unbroken, but beautifully bent.